What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Heel Report presented by Tar Heel 24/7 and another edition of our daily drop. And it's two new guys on here today. We hope that doesn't scare you away. You know, you're clicking on, you're like, no AJ, no Jacob. What's going on here? Me and Noah, you know, we saw some stuff from last game, notably about running back Deont Jun that we really just want to come on here and talk about and just kind of go over his season so far. And then you get some fresh perspectives. That's kind of what we're looking for here. You might have been hearing a lot of the same things about him. We talked about him on the three things last night. So we're just getting a couple more perspectives out there, and we're gonna see where that discussion takes us. So I just want to go over Deont Jun's stats or on Saturday. He had 148 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 14 carries was by far the most from a running back yesterday. He had 19 yards on a catch as well. So he was over 150 scrimmage yards. And, you know, it was a nice performance that really catapulted the Heels to their 41-6 victory over the Richmond Spiders. No, I want to open it up with just asking what you've seen from Deont Jun, not only in this game, the whole season so far, and I know you kind of joined on with the staff a little bit late to get a sense of what he was like in fall camp and everything. So just what you've seen so far, just talk a little bit about Deont Jun.
Explosiveness, man. That's the number one thing, right? Like, he is just such an explosive, powerful runner. It's funny because, like, going into that first game, he was kind of a guy that just nobody really anticipated playing much, right? He was number 5 on the depth chart. They play 4 running backs in that first game, and they're still trying to figure things out. And he doesn't even get a chance to go in there against TCU. And then, you know, we go out to Charlotte and we see some of him. And I think he played 16 snaps in that game, had, I think, 9 carries, if I remember correctly. And, you know, you wouldn't necessarily know off the stat sheet, but if you're watching him run the ball, I kind of knew that there was something there. And I don't think it was a secret. I think a lot of people that watched that game and watched him run the ball knew that there could be something there. And I came on this show last week and we talked, AJ and I had talked about just the running game and there were a lot of negatives, right? They didn't step on their throat. They weren't able to pull away from Charlotte, and even though they had multiple opportunities. But we came on this show and I said the one positive is Deont Jun. And although it didn't show, like I said, on the stat sheet, he looked the part. He looked explosive, he looked powerful, and he looked like he can get from one point to another really quick. So I knew that there was something there, and I really was going into this game hoping that we would see a lot more from him. And luckily, the coaching staff and everybody there in the program saw the same thing we did. And they put him in a lot more, obviously. He led the room in rushes and all those kinds of things. So he officially, really, it seems, has springboarded from the number 5 running back in week 1 to getting 0 snaps on the field to now becoming probably the bell cow for this North Carolina team. And to be honest with you, that's what they needed. They needed answers before the Power 4 game or their Power 4 schedule comes along here, UCF and then the conference teams. But they needed someone to come along here. They needed somebody to break out. They needed that momentum to be able to take that and give themselves a good chance to win against UCF. But he's an explosive runner. He's an angry runner. And Bill Belichick said, and his teammates said it too, and even Deont Jun, when asked how to describe his running game, he's just powerful. He said the quickest way to get from point A to point B is going in a straight line. Do it as powerful as you can. Obviously, you have to be under control. And I think that, you know, watching his game reminded me a lot of when you watch Isaiah Pacheco on the Chiefs. For those of you who've just turn on a Chiefs game and watch him a little bit, he runs so angry. And that's the same vibe I get from Deont Jun, and I think that's really useful. But at the same time, you have to be careful with that. If you're running angry like that, like I've seen Isaiah Pacheco slip over his own 2 feet because it seems like he's stomping the ground so hard. But Deont Jun doesn't seem to have that type of aggressiveness. Everything's under control with him, and he looks really comfortable out there. Being a true freshman, North Carolina kid, grew up a Tar Heel fan, doing that in his first game. It's awesome to see, and gives, I think, not only himself confidence, but the offense confidence. And obviously the defense balled out yet again on Saturday against Richmond. So I think that it just helps everything moving forward. And I never want to say I told you so, but I'm glad that they gave him more chances on Saturday, because you saw it pretty obviously in the Charlotte game, and you saw it a lot then against Richmond.
Yeah, and I kind of touched on it last night on 3 things, but if you want to talk about a spark for an offense that's trying to find an identity, over the last 2 weeks, that spark has been Deont Jun for a passing attack that's been pretty lackluster. That's still finding its footing. But I remember watching that Charlotte game, and it was like, it felt like Carolina was running in mud, and I understand what the conditions that maybe literally they were with them rainy conditions in Charlotte. But the one guy who came in and his first run, and he just hits a hole, and it's bang. I mean, he's 10 yards downfield, and it's like you just blinked. This guy has just an insane, he's got a great first step. He hits the hole really well. Like you said, he's an explosive runner, and he's the kind of guy that it feels like the culture of UNC running backs in history. It feels like this is the kind of guy you expect to come out the woodwork in a way, and the guy that you were looking for to make his presence known, especially this early in the season. So now you've kind of got that box checked off a little bit. So as you're finding some more room for the passing game to grow, you don't have to worry as much about the running game, because you've kind of got your 1-2 and Davion Gall's in there maybe as your goal line back. So and I want to go back to what you were saying about how the fact that he's a true freshman. He's a North Carolina kid. I mean, he's 19 years old, and it's crazy for me to say that because these guys are now younger than me coming in and playing ball. And I was like, it's baffling to me. This guy's going out there and really running hard and proving why he deserves to be getting big snaps at this level. So I just want to, since he's so young, and of course there's going to be learning curves, and it's going to be tough to keep up this level of production, especially as we get into Power 4 play. I just want to, what's the next step for Deont, especially going into not even just for this year, but into the future? What are you expecting to see from him at his time at Carolina?
Consistent production. I think that's the number one thing. Belichick said it after the game. He said, we're not going to let him get his head's not going to get too big over one game. It was very promising, but at the same time, he's got to do it consistently. And again, we've asked Belichick multiple times about how do you value the difference in competition when you're playing at TCU and you're getting blown out on national TV, and then you beat up maybe on a team like Richmond, an FCS program that's had success in the past, versus how do you value a 20-3 win against Charlotte, right, when you had chances to put them away? Like, where do you value success? But I think for Deont Jun, he's got to be consistent with it, right? He's got to be consistently productive against teams like UCF, against teams like Clemson even. What are we going to see out of him against an elite defensive line and elite defense like Clemson? But yeah, I think that just overall consistency is the biggest thing. I think it's really good for him to be in a situation like this, be a young kid, be able to learn, be able to grow. I think he even mentioned that when he was visiting and really deciding where he wanted to play college football, he was, watching Amari and Hampton, and he was studying Hampton and talked to Hampton while he was on these visits. So I think that helps, right, to see almost as a role model that's not actually there on campus every day, but to just sort of see a guy do it at that level for him, going through that process to then see, like, look, this could be me. This could be me on this same field with this same team. So I think that's big, but I think deeper too, just what Deont Jun, if this can be consistent, what this can do for the offense. I don't think we've dug in deep enough. Is, first of all, we know Gio loves to use his feet. We've seen it multiple times. He fights for extra yards, and he loves to pick up first downs with his feet. So I think that the dimension added of a Deont Jun type player, a Deont Jun effective runner added with Gio's legs, puts any defense off balance, first of all. Second of all, we've talked a lot, especially last week, about the lack of a vertical passing game, right? How they need to be able to throw the ball downfield. And I said on this show again last week when we were talking about Deont Jun is that the first step in developing a vertical passing game is finding an effective rusher. And that step one is done. They found their guy. And so now you can't just say, all right, let's go get a good vertical passing game. Let's just start throwing it deep. That's not how it works. It won't work. So they have to be able to effectively run the ball so they can then go into play action. They could then throw it deep because the defense has to respect the run. So now they have to respect the run. And the next step for this offense is now to be able to throw the ball over the top, right? If Deont Jun can be consistent, they can start getting chunk plays down the field, and everything will start to come easier and easier and easier for the offense. And with the defense, like they did last week against Richmond, like if they're able to get them in these situations where, UNC starting their offensive drive on the Richmond 40-yard line, like everything is just playing complementary football. That's how you do it. And again, I've mentioned the difference in competitiveness against different teams. We'll see if they can keep it up. But again, the first step is done. It's like a check. First step checked off. They found an effective rusher. And now the second step is consistency with that, and then also throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah, and when you talk about the offense as a whole, obviously one of the big question marks is and all the moving pieces in that offensive line. You still got kind of injuries lingering around and keeping some guys out. And the thing with Deont is with his explosiveness, he's a guy that, the holes might not be there for long, but he's finding them and he's hitting them. And he's the kind of guy that, like, he's really complementing what this offensive line is right now. And I think with the offensive line, as they get stronger and as they get better over the course of the year, and then that'll open up, like you said, with Gio's legs. And then all of a sudden you're attacking in the run game and the ground game from two different angles, so to speak. So that's going to be, I think that's going to open up that next dimension. And that's going to be when you can finally, when Carolina finds 5 guys they want to throw on the field and keep on the field for the entire game, that's when that next level of offense, and when you can start thinking about that downfield shot, I think that's when that's going to come in.
And I want to mention, too, there's more to this running game. It's not just Deont Jun. I've made it sound, and I feel like people have made it sound like, all right, the running step one, check off Deont Jun. No, it's more than that. It has to be more than that. If you want to have a productive run game, it has to be more than one player. And I think that they do still have figuring out to do. By no means is this roster, obviously, but this running back room is not done yet either. They're still figuring things out. Deont Jun could be your number one, kind of 1A guy, but you still got to have effective rushers behind him. And we've heard, preseason, Ben Hall is this great running back and whatnot, and he didn't play yesterday. He didn't play. Mm-hmm. And Davion Goss, we all thought would sort of be the 1A guy that we're saying Deont Jun is now. We thought that before the season. And he seems like potentially the third running back right now. So now he's number 3 on the depth chart. Caleb Hood is giving you a lot of consistency. So they still have figuring out to do in the sense of, all right, it's 3rd and long. We need a pass protecting running back in there. Who's going to give us the best chance at throwing a block on a blitzing linebacker or chipping a defensive end or something like that? So it's not only Deont Jun that he has to develop his whole game as well. He's got to get better in every sense. But he's got a good start there and a good base of the way he runs and his ability to find the hole and things like that. But it's not just him. It's going to be Caleb Hood coming in and maybe catching a check down and taking it for 5 yards. It's going to be, we'll see what Ben Hall, how much action he gets against UCF. I think will be another interesting piece there to factor in. And then, you still have Davion Goss, right? Like you mentioned, who's the goal line back? Is it going to be June the way he runs to push for an extra yard? We saw Goss had that touchdown run late in the second quarter against Charlotte. There's a lot of moving parts here still, but it's just it's really good for this program to have a guy and see someone like Deont Jun go do what he did in a game. Gives you a lot of confidence moving forward, not just for the offense, but for the defense too, to be able to know that if they get off the field, they've got a running back that's going to run like that, especially late in the game if you're up, a score and you want to try to get a couple first downs to ice it. To have a guy that runs that way is really helpful.
Yeah, and I get a sense, and we were able to talk to Jordan Saturday night as well, Jordan Shipp, the wide receiver. There's just a sense of like unselfishness in that entire offense in both the wide receiver room and the running back room. Jordan Shipp kind of described himself as, or he was described as an everything receiver, a guy who can block, a guy who can go out and kind of do what you need him to do. And I feel like the same is for that running back room too. Like we saw Caleb Hood enter the game a couple times. He had a couple snaps and he was doing a good job doing his job, blocking or what have you, picking up, going out on a route, picking up like a blitz. But they just feel like they kind of are buying into their role. And as it's shifting, I think they understood going into this year, this depth chart is not set. Maybe Caleb was number 1 and maybe he's now number 3, but I don't think that's going to hurt him. I think he's, and they're all are kind of guys who are bought in on the team. But I do want to shift this over. I don't want to take too much time here. Just kind of a discussion topic. I think we got a good discussion in about the running backs. But I was thinking before we got on, and I'm not saying I would go around and preach this in the town square or anything, but you're a guy that's been around college football and you've been around, Ohio State and everything. And I hear a lot of the time stuff like QBU, wide receiver U. When you look at some of the production and into the NFL as they are now. You've got Omarion Hampton on the Chargers. You've got Ty Chandler hanging around with the Vikings. Michael Carter's on a roster. Javonte Williams is kind of having a career resurgence. And these are guys that came out of UNC. Gio Bernard just retired. These are guys that came out of UNC in the last couple of years. And if a guy like Jun pans out the way, like since he's so young, the way he started, and I don't want to count any chickens before they hatch. Can Carolina kind of be considered a running back U? And is that kind of what they're establishing as their identity? Is these great running backs that they're developing really well?
I think it's safe to say a running back U, not probably the running back U, right?
Yeah,
like I think
fair.
They are a school that produces running backs. They produce good running backs. It's not, I mean, that's not an opinion, that's a fact, right? Like we've seen those players produce at a high level in the NFL. But there's no reason as to why Deont Jun can't be that next guy. There's no reason. He's 19 years old. He's got a staff that believes in him. He's got teammates, man, that believe in him. We talked to Gio about Deont Jun. We talked to Jordan Shipp about Deont Jun. Their face, you mentioned the unselfishness. Their faces, when we asked them about him, kind of lit up. And they're like so happy for their teammate to see, because they're the only ones that really see the work that these guys put in behind the scenes. And with Gio being the quarterback, like he knew that Deont Jun was the fifth string running back at one point. And how cool is that? I mean, for us, it's cool to see. How cool do you think it is for their teammates, right? To see like the number 5 guy in the depth chart didn't say a word and it's just doing his thing and putting in hard work. And then all of a sudden he's now the number 1 guy and has a game like that. But yeah, I think that it's fair to say that there's no reason as to why he can't have a career the way that some of these NFL backs did at North Carolina. There's no reason. And the sky really is the limit. And if he stays the course and again, doesn't get complacent, stays consistent, I think those are all things that if he does, then there's no reason he can't be the next NFL guy that running back out of North Carolina. But again, a long way to go. It's not by any means, we're not putting the crown on him already. I don't even know how comfortable I am saying that he's the bell cow, right? Like he could get 14 carries and we could see Caleb Hood get 11, right? Like something like that could come up in conference play. And it's like, you might not have like a number 1 and number 2 running back. It really might be the 1A, 1B. But I think that, if he understands that, I think that can help him. And if he has that mindset at this age, at 19 years old, that he wants to share the wealth. He wants other guys to get in there. And if they can have a couple consistent rushers, then you get late in the game and you got fresh legs. I know that probably a lot of people watching this didn't follow Ohio State last year super close, but it was one of the special stories of the season is that Quinshon Judkins, a guy that came from Ole Miss that was a big time rusher, comes over and wants to share 50% of the workload with another NFL player, right, with TreVeyon Henderson. So I think that mentality at that age for a guy like Deont Jun, if he can understand that and want his teammates to get involved, because he knows that in the long term, it's going to be better for the team. It's going to be better for him. It's going to be better for everyone all around. If he has that mentality at a kid at 19 years old, then, I mean, there's really no saying what he can do with the rest of his career and then into the NFL.
I did want to bring up that discussion just because of with recent history in mind and a guy as young as Jun, just to kind of put in people's minds like, hey, this is a great place for him to be if he wants to develop, just off the basis of recent history. But I mean, I think with that, I think we covered a lot about Deont Jun. I think we've got a good sense of the kind of player he's now, which is great. I think we've got a good sense about what he can offer. And I don't really have too much to say about it. I don't know if you have anything else, Noah, or if you're good.
Yeah, the biggest thing, the only thing is consistency. If he has to be consistent with it. But again, like if he can be, and I think that for a young kid to know that this is what he has in front of him. And I think like right now at this day and age on Sunday, when we're recording this, if he can look and say like, wow, like this is what I just did. I asked him what he would tell me if I told him before the game that this is the game he would have. He'd be like, I'd say you were lying. If he can see now and he just proved to himself what he can do at a college level. He probably knew in the back of his head he could do it, but then he got the chance to showcase it. If he knows that, gives himself the confidence to do that. And I think that alone, and then thinking, Omarion Hampton and all these names from North Carolina in the league at running back, he can think that. And I think that it'll give him that much more motivation to put his head down every day and work, because he knows that he could be a multi-million-dollar guy in the NFL and so on, and have a really productive career. I think the biggest thing is just staying consistent and not getting complacent. And I think that from what I heard from that 19-year-old kid, Deont Jun, last night, from what I've heard, like, I think that he's going to be the guy to keep his head down and continue working and to find more success and develop his game all over the place. And what better, coaching staff and head coach would you rather have in Bill Belichick than anyone else to be able to, sort of prove yourself to him, prove yourself to yourself. Like, I mean, just it feels like everything is coming together for Deont Jun, and I'm really happy for him. And it looks like he's going to have a really productive career.
Yeah. Good stuff, Noah. We're going to try to get out of here in a reasonable time frame. We appreciate y'all stopping in, giving a couple young guys a chance to talk some ball here, talk about North Carolina running back, and hopefully we get some more chances like this in the future. No, this was a good time. A good time for sure. And, if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that bell, get notified on daily content. Make sure you're signing up, VIP access for the website. You're getting, insider look on forums, plenty of discussion posts. You're just getting some insider info. You're going to be the first to get it here from Tar Heel 24/7. So we appreciate you stopping by, and we'll catch you next time.